I apologise on behalf of social services and the council for us not carrying out our responsibilities as we should have at that time. Social services did meet with the perpetrator and tried to intervene to ensure that the mother and the grandmother were aware of unsafe relationships. Some guidance and advice was given. It was very difficult to change that relationship. This was a naive young woman who was besotted by somebody who was paying her an awful lot of attention.
The Police National Database came in 2012 and Gwent implemented it straight away. It's in 2013 that all forces have used that system. What that now allows us to do is to do those searches personally as a force. As Gwent, we can put an individual's name in and the records will come up if other forces are aware. To do that search on someone like Mr. M would take an experienced analyst at least 3 hours. What we did learn out of this review was that our partners and other agencies were not aware of our own computer systems and what we could find on them. So we've had all the agencies in, they've looked at our computer systems, they know what we can search and how we get the information. So we have learned a lot from that.
Have any social workers faced disciplinary action over this case?
No social workers have faced disciplinary action. If you can read from the report, it says that there was no malpractice, there was no negligence, professional judgment was made looking at the whole circumstances surrounding the case. And as Simon said earlier, we were dealing with 2 separate safeguarding issues. One was a very vulnerable young baby, the other was a teenage man. So it was a very complex arrangement.
Goes into her GP a week after supposedly falling down the stairs, and the GP doesn't raise the issue of domestic abuse. It doesn't appear to have been considered. How is that possible?
Well, when Chelsea visited her GP on that occasion, the history was that she had fallen down the stairs a week before, as you said, but she didn't present with any injury, or there was no bruising. But
those are classic risk factors, aren't they? A pregnant woman presenting a week after her injuries, falling down the stairs.
That's absolutely right. And what we're asking GPs to do, what we're asking all health professionals to do now is, when they do see women, and particularly young women under the age of 18, who are in situations where domestic abuse should be suspected, that we do ask them. We do ask them about their intimate relationships, and we do ask them whether they could be at risk of domestic abuse, because it is important.
Wasn't there guidance at the time that they should have been doing that?
There is guidance. And
at the time? Was this guidance extant at the time?
There has been guidance about domestic abuse for a long time, but I believe that over the last couple of years we've strengthened that guidance. And certainly we've developed training programs for GPs in particular about asking and acting when there are any concerns about domestic abuse.
Who within your organisation made the assessment not to treat Hayley as a child?
That would have been the individual social worker dealing with a very complex family arrangement where there was a very vulnerable baby and there was a young adult who was still legally a child, dealing with an individual, obviously the perpetrator, a very unhealthy relationship.
Do you accept that that decision was a mistake?
I accept that decision was a mistake, and there's lots of learning being put in place for that. People have been given additional training from specialist legal advisors to alert them to that fact that
I can't actually name who the officer is. An officer has retired. However, looking at what happened over that period of time, we have investigated all our contact with the family, and through that investigation it was found that 2 officers went to a misconduct meeting and there were a finding on both of those officers. So we have done a thorough investigation, and the also the report that has been commissioned has also looked at any misconduct. So, I can assure you that any misconduct that came out of it, we have investigated and have dealt with it.
I appreciate that. But just on the former officer who was asked to help, specifically on the information sharing, he didn't want to help, did he?
Unfortunately.
And do you think, maybe you're not in a position to name him, but perhaps the force should name him if he's not prepared to cooperate on a matter as serious as this?
obviously we have legal things we can and can't say, and once someone is no longer employed by Gwent Police, we actually have no control over demanding someone to or not help with the review. But I can say that anyone who is employed and was employed when the review was going on has been very cooperative with 3 of the review panels.